following podcast contains adults using adult language. Parental discretion is advised.
Everybody looks better when they're younger, though. It's just the way it is.
That's true.
Yeah.
Words to live by. Sorry, grognards. Not looking so good now, are ya? Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Down Roll. Today, you better strap yourselves in, because we're going controversial.
Yeah, maybe.
We're going new school vs old school.
New versus old.
Why the friction? I'll tell you why, because you're raw.
No, that's scratching.
Oh,
That's
wait,
scratching.
That's
Never mind.
not friction.
No, it's not.
And
That's...
you also ruined my punchline.
Oh, go ahead, do it again.
In the thing. And I said it's too late now.
Why? You get to, you're funny even on double takes or
Yeah, but
double takes, retakes.
God damn it! This is the controversy. This is our last episode of The Down Roll.
I guess this is where we're at. Okay, start again.
So you start this question, and you write. We talked about this a little last time. You write questions to yourself.
I do.
And then the funny thing is when you don't have a real answer for it. That's my favorite. But
oh yeah.
You think about answers when you're coming up with the questions.
No, I want to be blindsided by my own questions.
It's amazing how well you compartmentalize.
It is. I'm good like that.
So I'm going to assume you're old school here by the first
yes,
and I'm just
no.
saying just by the first question, because the first question is there a beef between older and newer players? Have we used the word beef in that regard since like 1986,
Yes.
87?
I heard it the other day through some kids, and they said
There's never been a kid.
And the kid says, "I got beef with you. It's verse."
Hold on. I'm gonna get a kid. Lily or Kaylin, come here.
Oh, they're gonna agree.
You're gonna be on the show. We'll magically have them appear here. All right. Kaylin, how old are you?
9.
If I would say, do you have a beef with anyone at school? Would you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
It means, do you have a problem with somebody?
Oh,
wow.
Snap! Out
All
of the
right,
mouth
you're grounded.
of babes.
Get out of here.
Thank you, Caleb.
All right. Never mind. I was wrong.
Yes. Anyway, continue.
All right. So is there a beef between older and newer players?
Apparently
It seems
so.
like there is.
There is, yeah. And
Grognards versus the millennials.
well,
Everyone's versus the millennials, aren't they?
it makes me think of all those gifs that you see all
VS.
over VS. See, you can't even do it. It makes me think of all those gifs that you see around there, where it's been watered down to just okay, boomer. Have you seen those?
I have
yeah,
seen
and it's
those.
like, well, I can understand that, but there's a legitimate beef.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think we should. And there's a couple of things that the reason that I wanted to talk about this. There was a couple of things that just happened recently. Okay, that brought this to my attention. I was like, man, I mean, as I'm turning, who was the guy who says Rodney King? Can't we all just get along? Sort of thing. It's like
Rodney King?
Yeah, he said that. Can't we all just get along? Don't you remember?
He was the guy that was beaten by the LA cops. Did he?
And then after the riots, he was like,
is he the one who said that? I was
he's
very
like, can't
young
we
back then.
Oh, shut the hell up. No, you weren't. You're the same age as me almost.
I'm a couple years younger.
Oh, okay. We'll go with that part of it. So you
those 1 or 2 years really
make a huge difference.
Big difference.
But yeah, because okay, the first thing that happened is, and I'm not going to drop a name here because I don't want to, that's just poor taste. But
you dropped Rodney King's name, that poor guy.
Yeah, but I was complimenting Rodney, and this is not necessarily
you did give him credit for a good.
Yeah, and
phrase.
this is I'm not necessarily slamming on this person, but there is a dungeon master that streams.
Oh, you gotta drop the name. This is a controversial episode.
I cannot. But I watch his streams, and I follow him on Twitter too. And there was a statement.
Is it a famous guy?
That he had that basically said,
it's not Matt Mercer because he's perfect.
I don't have. He said, I've kind of had. He is talking about a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter is OSR, old school revival stuff.
Okay.
And he was all like, I don't have a good reputation of talking and dealing with these guys, and he was contemplating whether or not to back the Kickstarter, which he's entitled to. I'm not saying, but it was like, wow. Even somebody of his caliber has experienced this stuff. And I was like, that's too bad. Now, the second thing
we need ratings. Who is this? Is this a popular guy?
Now, the second thing that popped up.
God damn it. Answer my goddamn. I'm the one who asked the questions and you answer them, motherfucker. This is how the whole program works.
Yes and no. How about that? I'll give you a traditional, my canned Will.DM response. There you go. Now, the second thing that came
I'm going to assume it's Adam Coble unless you tell me otherwise.
Was a
yes or no?
Thing about
it
was from
we're throwing down. I think. I don't know. Are we in favor of this? I don't even know where we stand on this. Because you won't tell me who it is.
Like I said, no,
why
I'm saying is...
Why does this person have a bad reputation with the old school...
It's not a bad reputation. It's just he's had some bad run-ins.
I know I've got a bad reputation.
You know what I mean? Is this DM has had some bad run-ins with people from the OSR movement. Now, the OSR movement is synonymous with the grognards.
Right.
Okay, that's why it all comes about. So
I have
it's not
vision... Because this is Dungeons and Dragons, guys.
This is why this topic will... Nobody's going to watch this and get offended. They're like, these guys are morons.
I have a vision of, like, the old school grognards outside of a gaming store with their leather jackets smoking cigarettes.
If we're only that cool.
And the young ones come outside.
Yeah. Now, you have to keep in mind, we're like second-generation grognards because we're not... The real grognards are our parents' age.
I don't think I'm
boomers.
A grognard at all.
Yeah. Well, of course you don't, because you don't like being called something cool. Anyway, so the other thing that happened was South Park dropped their latest episode, and in South Park...
Who knew South Park was even still on the air?
I did. Come on now, South Park.
You live in Colorado, so
yes, I do live in Colorado. Yes, I have been to the actual South Park. You're correct.
Actually,
I can drive down to their studios at any time if I wanted to. I just go down there and I'll, of course, never get in, but that's not the point. So they had this episode which was about Cartman and the boys having a game. They have a gaming club, and then the girls come in and want to join, and it's about the them fighting back about not wanting to have the girls or other people coming in and gaming in their games, So, it is an issue. As much as I would hate to admit it is. Obviously, it is an issue.
I have a friend, and I won't name names either, because nobody knows who this person is.
Notice, I won't ask you.
Right. Her name's Nikki. There you go. I named the name because I don't care. So she had been wanting to play Dungeons and Dragons, and she went to a lot of conventions. She does cosplay, stuff like that. So she goes to a lot of conventions. Always been interested in playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Gotcha.
And she's young, very attractive girl.
Right.
and was so intimidated by the people playing Dungeons and Dragons because they were so unwelcoming
Mm-hmm.
that
I
she
have
never
theories.
played until we played a game at my house about a year or so ago.
Yeah. I do have theories behind this, and we'll get into it.
I've got theories too.
Yeah. We'll see how close we are.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's the beef?
What's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Okay.
Where's the beef? So, what's the beef between older and newer? Why is there a problem, man? Did we talk about this? Was I not paying attention because I'm trying to figure out if it's Adam Cole who's having a problem?
Probably. Who knows? You were just rambling. So, this is what
I'm pretty sure. I'm looking at Twitter right now.
How I feel.
On the one hand, it's an OSR book, and I've had some rough times with that particular subset of RPG fans.
You ass. So here's the deal.
First of all, never second guess my detective skills.
I should hope you'd be able to find that out. I said too much. If you couldn't figure out from what I was saying, But okay, so this is my general theory is this. Okay. There is a divide in the old school versus the new school. And this divide is that the new school and the people who are coming in now, okay, and they're different. They're not like the old school nerds that started playing this game.
And it was their secret little club that they did on their own.
Well, it's not even secret little club. So what I'll do is
I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
I'll start off with
I'm not being mean
beef. Yet. Yeah, that's all right.
It's coming.
I'll start off with what I feel is the beef that the grognards in the old school have. Mm-hmm. Okay. Getting into this hobby, okay, and starting off playing when we did and when they did, okay, it was a extremely nerd hobby. It was ridiculed. You were made fun of. This was not something you didn't go into this going, man, it's going to make me popular. I'll get into that D&D club at high school. You did it.
Can I tell you a true story?
Sure.
When I started playing D&D, I didn't know it was for nerds.
That's because you're completely out of touch with reality.
I just thought it was a fun game that people played.
And it is, and that's the way it should be. But back in the day, that was...
And this was... And again, I first started, I guess, in 5th grade. But I really didn't play. We played like one game at a friend's house. We didn't really know the rules. Anything like that. But it got me hooked. I really liked it. It wasn't until high school where we played a couple of times. And then college, after that. So... I didn't know. There was a cartoon when I was a kid. That seemed cool.
It was cool. It was awesome. Matter of fact, got the whole series.
I had some action figures.
And that was the thing, is that it was a serious nerd hobby.
And it was safe
labeled
haven
as such
for nerds, though.
It was. Now here I think is where the rub comes in. Okay,
Hamlet.
The older school players wanted to be not one, made fun of, two, wish that other people would join. Right. There is not an old school player out there that didn't ask somebody to play Dungeons and Dragons with them and not get laughed at.
But let's look at this though. And I mean, nobody laughed at me because I was super cool.
Well, yeah, you were the cool dude.
And again, I was oblivious to what was cool and what was nerdy, which made me cool. Yes. But you think about like this and nerd culture, geek culture. What is it? I don't even know the difference, honestly.
Same.
Is it the same now? Is it?
It's as far as I know. Yeah.
Okay. And
I'm sure there's some term out there. There's terms. There's fucking terms for everything.
I don't know what the actual if there's a difference. Honestly, if there is, let me know and I'll use the right one moving forward. But you look at comic book stores. You look at gaming stores. They're not inviting places for the most part. Except, nowadays you see like
Nowadays
which is
they
like
are.
a chain, which is they don't really have a lot of comics. They have a lot of like geek culture stuff.
Well, there
or
was a
whatever.
reason for that, though. This is the point I'm trying to make about the old school.
Right.
The reason that there was this whole protectiveness that was surrounding the industry and the people that were in it. It's because those people had been beat the fuck up. So they're automatically, maybe even literally by some of them, and
I'm sure there were.
They became very protective of themselves and their hobby and their friends involved in
So
the
they
hobby.
hid in the darkness, even in their.
Well, and that's the
stores.
thing. So it's like there's this whole thing. It's like, they want it to be better. They wanted people involved. They didn't want to be ridiculed by it or made fun of. And that's how the hobby was for a long time. For a very long time. It isn't until 5th edition comes around, really. Because 4th edition, maybe, and I can't speak
Nobody
to that,
played
but it's right
4th
around.
edition.
But anyway, it's around this time.
I don't know
So you're
what
talking about the game starts in 74. Okay.
Mhm.
It doesn't start to gain in popularity till like 2008. Okay. So that's a
No, not
huge
even
amount.
then. It's much late. It's really the last few years.
Well, that's when it starts. But and I'm giving it some sort of. So there's a huge chunk of the history of this industry.
Yeah.
Okay. Where
it's like 40 some odd years.
Yeah, and that's the way it was. And people straight up.
Now you can find it in Target. I found the Player's Handbook in Target.
Exactly. So you've got the old school. This is their mentality. This is what they've had to deal with. And here's the thing: is granted, all these players. There's not an old school player out there that didn't try and help somebody else find the game, and they were able to bring lots of people.
But why not do it now?
Here's the reason, I think. Now, this is where I think the rub is with the newer generation towards the older generation. The newer generation, it becomes a thing. They start seeing it streamed. They start seeing it on popular TV shows, in popular culture, and it starts to become this cool thing. They are able to go into
Rick and Morty, even.
There you go. There you go.
About it. Although I don't know how cool Rick and Morty is.
Dude, you have not seen Rick and Morty?
I have seen a few episodes. I think it's funny. I just don't know how cool it is. Is that a cool show? Is that a geek show?
It is a very cool show. Very cool show. So
I don't know the difference.
I know. With the
I don't see cool and geek. Well, I do see.
You do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the newer generation starts getting into this, and it's one great, big, cool, happy family. Yeah. And it's all this, hey, and it's all awesome, and
but isn't
it's
that
all
what
inclusive.
The old school wanted back in the day?
You would think. Now, here's the thing. This is where I'm sure there's a lot of people getting butt hurt and hurt feelings and different stuff about it. Now, I will use a name here. Okay. The new school. No, the new school is coming in, and they're turning around and they're looking at the old school and going, well, what the fuck is your problem? Why are you so butthurt behind all this different stuff?
What's your problem, old nerd?
Number one thing is I've heard this a lot. You're doing it wrong. The new generation, not all of them. I'm not going to.
What do they think they're doing wrong? Because there's
a lot of people.
Less role playing.
I'll give you a great example.
They're not.
Lord Gazumba, we know Jay, right?
Yeah.
Jay went to. I think this is from Gen Con. I think this is a Gen Con story.
Okay.
Jay goes to Gen Con, finishes up. He's coming back on his flight, right?
Yeah.
He just so happens to be sitting next to a 20-something-year-old who went to Gen Con, right?
Sure.
And they get to talking, and it's like, oh, you went to Gen Con? So did I. So forth and so on, talking about their experiences. Comes up that Jay is a streamer, that he has a stream.
Sure.
And this kid's all like, oh, you do? Cool. They pull it up on the phone, right? And Jay starts showing them, yeah, see, here's
While on the plane, shouldn't that be in airplane
anyway
mode?
So he's showing them.
Dangerous.
I don't know if it was actually on the plane.
Living on the edge,
I don't know if
playing
it
with
was
people's lives.
They changed that law anyway. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe it was in the airport. But still, he shows them it. This kid starts picking his show apart. First thing, yes. So you guys play D&D? Yes, we play first and second edition hybrid. He goes, well, that's stupid. Is essentially what the kid's telling him. You should be playing 5th edition. 5th edition's the popular edition. That's what everybody's playing right now. That's what Critical Role does. Then he's all like,
Don't you,
okay.
bro.
And then,
The Matt
he's
Mercer effect in here, you savage bastard.
dude. And then he's all like, it's like, well, where's your overlays? Where's this? And he goes, well, we don't do that because we do, he's explained to him, we're a miniature heavy show. We got a lot of miniatures and stuff. And he goes,
They got great
well, still, and he's like, well,
way.
still, that's not the way that Critical Role does it. See, the way Critical Role does it. And there was nothing
Critical
that
Role
Jay,
would love Jay's miniatures, first of all.
right. There was nothing that Jay could say that this kid wasn't starting to take apart and say,
punched him in the face
and tell him straight up, you're doing it wrong. And this, I think, is the big reason, because you know what? I am, as an older player, as an old school rep, I love all the new people coming in. I absolutely love it.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. But you also hear me say all the time, there's no wrong way to play D&D.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way a lot of people, not all, and I will even say this, it's a minority of the people that are actually like this kid that Jay bumped into. Most people are just not that fucking rude.
That kid's a dick.
Yeah, that kid's a dick.
What's his name? We got to find it out from Jay.
We got to find him. Yeah, come on, Columbo. Let's see your skills now. So,
what's his Insta?
I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff. So this is actually prevalent. I've had this happen to me dealing with people online, talking about, how things are done. We've had people accuse us of being old school.
Oh, are we going to talk about this now?
We can't drop names.
Oh.
We still can't drop names. Okay. But we can say this much.
This is a very tame, controversial episode here.
We still have to be nice, and the thing is not everybody that was involved is at fault. No. And that's why I don't want to drop names. So we had a show, right? On at one time, and it wasn't on channel. It was not on our channel.
You might remember it. Why do I have such a hard time blinking?
Anyway,
because I'm looking at myself trying to blink and the wrong eye's blinking. It's weird.
Anyway, so we had this had this show on this channel. We're running it. We ran it for, I think, 4 episodes or something like that?
It was more than that. It was like almost
maybe
6.
Maybe
I want to say 6
whatever
episodes.
And so basically, it was shut down. It was shut down. There was 2 reasons it was shut down for. One of the reasons was because one of the players thought that it was too much of an old boys school.
Old boys club.
Old boys club.
Yeah.
Because there was myself, you, and then I would have to assume one other cast member that would be of the age to be considered old school. Okay.
Wait a minute. She was calling us old?
Yeah, dude. What do you think she was doing? What do you think that? Yeah.
If I remembered her name, I would drop it.
But anyway, the point of it is,
I don't remember who it was.
Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to say that she didn't feel that way, because you can't tell what somebody actually feels.
Sure.
You can't do that. But I also know the response that we got from the other fans that watched the show.
Sure.
And
some of them may be watching this episode now.
They were completely blindsided by it. They're like, well, what?
Yeah.
The other thing that happened in the episode, and maybe it's me being insensitive, I don't know. I had an NPC that was gay in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had the gay NPC hit on another man.
Right.
Okay. That happened in the show. And
it wasn't like a
wasn't overtly forceful.
Yeah, but it also wasn't like it wasn't like a stereotypical, like, over the top interpretation. And
let's put it this way: the way that the man was interpreted, the only way that you knew that the man was gay was the fact that he asked out another man.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only way you knew.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I don't buy into that. I don't go over the top. I'm not a homophobe. I don't care. I've kissed boys before. It's all good. Here you go. You throw that out there. Yeah. Right. And the thing it is and people who watched that afterwards too saw it. Now here's the thing. The show got canceled, and the reason it got canceled was because there were a select few people of the new school who had a problem with how I ran the game And
But I think it was more along the lines of, what's this old straight white dude? What does he know about blah 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 blah? Not knowing anything.
that's
about
exactly what it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. Because none of these people who said anything, none of their complaints held any water.
No. But also,
it-
I think there's two. I think on both sides, the old school and new school, I think there's a lot of people who are, judging people by a stereotype without
Yes.
getting to know. And that's, to me, one of the great things about playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Is that, to me, I think you really get to know the people playing. Based on the characters they play and stuff like that and whatever. Yeah. And I think that you've got a lot of old school people who've got a perception of what these new school people are because of this vocal minority. And the same thing with the new school people, thinking, oh, well, this
Well,
is
you got to admit,
right.
The old school guys have to be pissed because, and here's the thing, they have a right to be pissed, but not at the people. You should be pissed at society.
Why do they have a right to be pissed?
They have a right to be pissed that, God damn it. See, we were telling you all along that there was nothing wrong with this, that this was a great, awesome thing to do. And you laughed and you mocked us and you ridiculed us. And now fucking movie stars are doing this. They're going on.
Hold on one second.
They're streaming. That's how they're feeling. It's like,
this
oh my God.
This isn't devil worshipping what we're doing.
Not anymore. No.
What?
Are you out?
Oh, fuck. I'm out.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously. I mean, let's look at it. They're good. How could you not look at the situation and go, "You got to be kidding me"? Now, all you guys are getting all the love, and it's all out there, and I think what's happening is that you've got these two different groups who can't see past these insignificant just things, and they're lashing out at each other for no reason. You've got the new group looking at the old group and thinking that you're curmudgeon and that you're set in your ways and that you're homophobic and that you're sexist because there was no girls that played with you and all this different stuff. I've heard that argument where it's like, well, it was obviously sexist because there was no women that were playing. It's like, for one, they were just way in the minority. And for two, man, they asked, it got laughed at. Okay, the girls just did not want to play
for years, and I think I don't know if I've mentioned it on this show, but I know I've mentioned it to you in the past, but I mentioned it somewhere that. So I said that I played a lot in college. We had 3 guys and 2 girls who played all of the time, and then there was another girl who played some of the times. I mean, for us, and this was in the 90s. When it wasn't a popular game to play, and we hung out, once a week, and we would play the game. Yeah, and it wasn't a thing about, which is to me why it's weird. And again, I think for somehow I and maybe because I just played with friends until I started playing, with people
That's
online,
a big deal too.
Instead of going to
deal.
a game store and just whatever. So I had a very different experience. So for me, this whole thing is weird.
It is.
Like it's like this isn't like a game for guys or a game, I'm
100% behind. It's like, how come you guys aren't just like ecstatic that all these new people are in playing our game? I mean, how could you get upset? I mean, like, I understand. I'm going to be the first to say it's like, I often think, man, if only back in the day. But I don't hold that against the new crowd that's coming in.
No, I think
they didn't do that.
Yeah.
It was the old school people that we were with and this is true, honest to God story. At work, I don't hide the fact that I do this, right? Mm-hmm. People that I talk to about it, if they're 30 and under, when I tell them, they're like, cool. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, today, there was a lady who was my age that I talked to about it, who said, I got the same look that I used to get back in the day. It was like, really? That's what you do? Yeah. Well, how do you do that? That's like, it's like this whole,
my wife thinks it's weird.
Her nose crinkled up, and it's like, what? Well, it's like, it's a generational thing.
Yeah.
So it's like the grognards in the old school can't get mad at the new school for, all the success and everything that's happening. And the new school can't turn around and look at the old school and just automatically start pointing fingers at them because their style of Dungeons and Dragons is different from the new
Right.
one. And it doesn't mean just because it's super successful today with the formula that you're using doesn't mean that formula is the only way to
Sure.
do it.
It took a lot to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And without those past editions, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. I mean, totally. And that's
So,
yeah. So
is there a way that the two sides can get along with each other?
yes.
I
Yeah.
have an idea. Can I answer
Go,
this one?
you go first.
Cool
man.
the fuck out, assholes, and just play the fucking game.
A fucking men to that, right?
Like, what
Amen.
the hell? Like, this is not, and I think this is the big thing. It's not like an older edition versus a newer edition of the game
fuck
problem.
the
It's a fucking
edition
people
wars.
problem.
It's exactly what
Like,
it is.
just play the game, have fun, you know?
Exactly.
Meet new people, you know, invite
Mhm.
people in that haven't played before, regardless of age
Yeah.
or gender or sexuality. Who cares? Race?
And
Who cares?
Yeah, stop pointing fingers at how a different edition or a different generation plays the game
Yeah.
and making fun of it. Who the fuck? I mean, I think it's everybody here can agree on one thing. We're all birthed out of the same geek culture. Just because it's generational
Except for
and
me, because
different.
I'm super cool.
Yeah, you are super cool. But just
The
because of
rest
that
of you,
doesn't
though, yes.
doesn't mean that we're not all from the same culture. So we of all people should not be turning around and pointing fingers at our culture and belittling it for something because you got to burr up your ass about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is a game.
Yeah, it's fun.
Play a game and have fun.
It's a fun game to play. That's all.
Stop
there is to it.
looking for something to, and this is, I think, part of it too, is like there's so many different people out there that, and this is, I think, social media really helps with this.
Social media has ruined.
They just are
everything and also
looking
makes
for
everything great all at the same time.
Yes, they're looking to, have some controversy. They're looking to say something to upset someone, to get a rise out of them, and that's I think there's so many different people on both schools that are way guilty of doing that.
I think a lot of the old school thing is because, and you talked about it before. It was a very different time back in the 70s and the 80s, and even the 90s. Although the 90s is where we started to see a bit of a shift. So they were getting picked on. They were getting bullied a lot of the times. And they had this game that was their game.
Yes.
This is something that they did. And even though everyone said this is a nerdy thing and you're a nerd for playing it, it was their thing, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It was their, football team. It was their band, whatever it was. And now that there's people, coming in and taking it, they feel like it's being taken away from them.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're thinking.
And that's why I think, to go back to my friend who, always tried to get involved in, in playing, D&D at these conventions and, and was shunned. Right, because now here's now here's a pretty young woman who wants to play this game now it's too late for them. But
keep in mind too, a lot of these guys are the same guys that were ostracized, and they're going to shut down at a pretty girl in the line at the burger joint.
Sure,
they're not going to. What you
this
might be
payback,
conceiving,
right?
what you might be conceiving as shunning is, I don't know how to talk to you.
Well, that's what I said too. That's what I told her. I said I think that's a big part of the problem.
Oh yeah, that is. For a long time, in the late 90s, in the early 2000s, I owned a game store. Okay, I owned the original Channing Grounds here in Denver, and I was constantly having new kids come in, very susceptible, showing them the games. Vampire the Masquerade was huge at this time, helping with all that. And I would constantly meet parents that were my age. Okay, even back then. Yeah, right. And so Well, maybe a little bit older than me now that I think about it, because that is.
Or they're having kids pretty early on.
Well, that was over 20 years ago. I got to remember how old I am and when things happen. So, and I would talk with the parents all the time because the parents were, they were the grognard's age, so they were my parents' age,
Sure.
or in between that area,
Right, yeah.
and they were very concerned about it. Talking to and helping them out and helping with the next generation of gamers. I think all the old school people should do that as well. And basically, what it comes down to is they should not. You shouldn't be offended by the success or how they are coming back at you and telling maybe you that you're doing it wrong. I mean, don't do that. Try, if they're willing, to educate them, and if they're not, then you just walk away from it. I've gotten into
this way. If you're old school, you've won.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many times I've had conversations with younger fans and people who in the industry now, and I would talk to them about like some of my favorite artists and things along these lines. Well, of course, all mine are old school guys; they're all from back, and it's like they don't know who Trampier is.
I don't know any of these.
Well, you don't know nothing. You don't even know the names of people you game with now. I mean, so
I know the names of the people. I don't know their characters.
Right, and so
and I really did forget that one girl's name.
I know. Good, but it's like
otherwise I would drop it.
Instead of in that situation, I don't go, gosh, how could you not know who Trampier is? I mean, he's one of the greatest artists in D&D of all time. He was one of he did this. He's responsible. Larry Emmel's really good.
He's the only one that I know.
Well, Trampier did the original Advanced Dungeons and Dragons art for the Player's Handbook.
Oh, okay,
that's Trampier.
Okay,
but the thing is like, I didn't go, how could you not know this guy? Blah, blah,
blah.
What
the fuck's your problem?
Yeah, I didn't do that.
Loser.
I'm like, oh my God, you don't know who Trampier is? Let me tell you about him.
Yeah. But I think that's how we all have to behave.
Yes.
There's things for
and
the
stop
older
comparing
school to impart and to learn. And the same with the newer school.
And the new school's got to stop looking at the old school and the things they do and comparing it to the streaming industry.
Yeah, streaming and
what's going on now.
It's so different.
It's totally different. Yeah. We've got a show that we even talk about that, don't we? I mean,
we got to get ready to play that show, actually.
There you go. So, but yeah, so it's like, that's the thing. The new way of doing it, if you're the new school, that's not the only way to do it.
Yeah.
So, and don't think just because you're in the high point success of Dungeons and Dragons, that doesn't mean that what was being done before was unsuccessful. Change has come about due to society changing and the acceptance of it. Because all those old school guys who played it back in the day, those are the people that said, hey, we're going to green light. Hey, we're going to do this Parks and Rec, all these D&D episodes in it. We're going to do that because we used to play D&D back in the day. Those are the guys that helped make it to become the great big success that it is today.
So it's not old school vs new school. It's old school plus new school.
Actually, yeah. And
that's the way it should be. And we should all be living together in harmony.
Yeah. Well, yes, you're correct.
So, why does
I love playing with the new schools?
Problems with the old school people?
I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
That'll be our next episode on the down roll for Will.DM. I'm Adam. I don't think I introduced this earlier. And anyway, this has been another edition of the down roll. We'll check you guys next time when we talk about versus old school gamers or something else. I don't know.
Cool.
And check out, there's a little screen at the end here. Check out all the other things that we do here on the channel. We've got quite a bit now.
Yeah, a couple of things.
See ya.
Bye.
Wouldn't want to be ya.